Visitors heading out to the Overland Park Arboretum are now greeted by a big surprise, a ticket charge. After more than 2 decades as a free attraction, the 300-acre outdoor venue just off of 179th Street and 69 Highway is now charging $3 to enter, $1 for kids.
Thanks in part to the controversy over a bronze statue of a topless woman. Last year was the best ever for the Arboretum, which is trying to get visitors to think of them as more than just a park. Joining us now on The Local Show is the chair of the Friends of the Arboretum, Dennis Patton.
A lot of people will have these New Year's resolutions, and one of them might be they want to be more communing with the outdoors, perhaps getting a little healthier, and perhaps hiking trails, wandering around the Overland Park Arboretum, and they're going to be very shocked because in January, as we say, you're going to be going there, and you're going to now be paying an admission fee, something they've never paid before. Why?
Many people don't realize, but the Arboretum was conceived back in the early 90s, and it was always destined to be a botanical garden and an arboretum. A lot of people just over the years assumed it was another community park, and a lot of people didn't come along with the vision that it was destined to be so much more. And it got to a point where we feel that it was important now to start that transition from park to cultural destination, and also that there are a lot of amenities there that do cost more money to upkeep, and the city alone cannot support what we really want the Arboretum to become in the future.
But it is a sort of psychological hurdle still for many people when you've been doing something for so many years. When it is completely free.
I must admit, it's not going to be an easy transition. We've gotten a lot of opposition. We've also got a lot of people in support. So you got to look at it both ways. There's those that, of course, are going to be opposed to paying anything at any time. But if you also think about those that really enjoy the cultural part, the destination of it, you cannot go to another parallel event, attraction like, Powell Gardens, Missouri Botanical Gardens, Chicago Botanical Gardens, and any other place and not pay a fee to get in. This is a very nominal fee, and all the money will go back, especially the Friends money, will go directly back into supporting the continued growth and development.
Because there is confusion about where the money will go, because people see it as a City of Overland Park attraction. Is it going to be funding to help offset the costs of the City of Overland Park? And we also got an email from a gentleman who asked, is this going to help pay for the new metal art out there?
Well, okay, good question. Boy, these are very good questions. Currently, the funds that you're going to be paying are going into the Overland Park, are going into the Overland Park General Fund. But also keep in mind that the city's currently funding almost, I believe it's around $800,000 to support the Arboretum. So that's just offsetting fees. As I said, the membership fees are going directly to the Friends groups, and the Friends group only exists to promote and enhance the Arboretum, so all those monies are going back. And now we're in the process of developing what they're calling an International Sculpture Garden, which are referring to the 2 years of donations from the Chinese sculptors. And that's actually going to be part on the Arboretum and part on what's called the Kemper Farm, which was land donated to the City of Overland Park. It's a very complex organization for something with a pretty simple goal and mission. But yeah, it will help support and build the art. This is part of building our cultural future.
157,000 people came there up until the end of November of last year, your best year ever. That exceeds the number of people who went to the World War I Museum here in Kansas City. There's a lot of people coming out here. Was that partly due to the controversy over that bronze
sculpture?
Bare-breasted sculpture that you had there? Yeah.
Well, if you ask our volunteer greeters, they will tell you the #1 question this year is, where's the sculpture? So yes, it did help. You know, what's the old saying? No press or all press is good press. There's no such thing as bad press. And maybe in this case, having a little controversy around those sculptures did help increase the awareness and the number of people. And I think once you get out there, you'll see how much that piece of property has to offer, whether, like I said, you're just a casual walker or more invested in nature.
You know, one of the things about that whole, we talked about it a lot on Kansas City Week in Review. We talked a lot about the controversy of their art, and we saw that a lot in the media. But I always thought also, wow, and I go out there quite a lot. Most people have no clue. They don't go out to 179th and 69 Highway. They don't go that far. They've never actually set foot in this place. Tell us, what is there to see if you've never set foot in that Arboretum before, Dennis?
I think there's several reasons to go out there. One is about 5 miles of walking trails. Most of these are going through the woods of Wolf Creek. So in the spring, you're seeing the spring wildflowers, all the birds, the wildlife. There's also about 100+ acres of restored prairie or being restored prairie. So for those that don't really know what a tall grass prairie looks like in Kansas, even though we're home of the Flint Hills, this is the closest you're going to see a large acreage of prairie, and also the wildlife that goes with that. Of course, as a horticulturist, someone who loves gardening, there's a few gardens out there. The Monet Garden is very special to me because our Extension Master gardeners maintain that, but that's an acre plus of highly maintained flower gardens.
If it's all about nature, why do you have to have art there at all? Because that's been one of the big parts of the controversy, is you have this International Sculpture Garden. There may be up to 100 as part of the vision, 100 pieces of outdoor art there. Does that have to be there at all?
Well, I think there's a couple ways to answer that. I think, first of all, gardening is an art. It's a different art form than, say, sculpture. And if you go to any arboretum, botanical gardens, art, sculpture is part of those gardens that really make them a complete or whole. And I think the other thing is the way the cities and the Friends group are envisioning this is you'll have really kind of two unique cultural attractions there. You'll have the arboretum, botanical garden part, and you'll have the sculpture garden park, which would be maybe separated a little bit. Right now, those sculptures are all in temporary homes. If your viewers have ever heard the term Mammoth Sculpture Park, that's kind of what they're trying to develop. And there's a few of these dotted around the country. So these would be on walking trails, more in settings that would be more appropriate for the art than maybe where they're just on now. There's currently this quarter-mile walking trail.
How is the Arboretum in Overland Park different than Powell Gardens?
I think those two are going to complement each other very nicely as they develop. Powell, of course, is privately owned and operated. Here again, you've got this kind of city-private relationship going on here with the Arboretum being owned by the City of Overland Park. But then you have the Friends of the Arboretum, the Overland Park Arts and Recreation Foundation, as the private body out there raising funds, support to really help grow it. Because we know in this day and age, government tax dollars are not going to build the dream and the vision, so it's going to take that private support, and that's where our Friends groups are coming in to make sure we can tap into those private streams of money to help really reach our vision.
Now, what happens then, Dennis, as the month progresses and into the spring, and people see that fee and decide not to come to the Arboretum?
Well, you know, I think we're mature enough, wise enough to understand that it is going to be a barrier to some, and it will not surprise me if all of our attendance drops off this year as people adjust to that. People are going to have to decide whether or not paying that fee every time they go out or buying a membership fee is really in their best interest in growing that facility and making it more.
Dennis Patton, we very much appreciate you being with us on The Local Show.
Thank you so much. It's been fun being here.